Hi everyone, myself Hitesh, and today's presentation is about default interface methods in Java, and the subject is object-oriented programming in Java. Default interface methods in Java. In this presentation, I'm going to explore the powerful features of default interface methods in Java. I will cover motivational behind the introduction, the syntax, and the structure, and are driven into key benefits and use cases. By the end, we will have a deep understanding and how default interface methods can enhance our Java development workflow. What are default interface method? Default interface methods are a feature introduced in Java that allow interface to provide a concrete default implementation for some of their methods. This means that classes implementing the interface do not have to provide their own implementing for those methods unless they want to override the default behavior. Prior to Java, interface could only contain abstract methods, which meant that my class implementing interface had to provide its own implementation of every single method. Default methods addresses this limitation, making interface more flexible and powerful. Motivation for default interface methods. 1. Involve interface without breaking existing code. Default interface methods allow you to add a new functionality to an interface without forcing all implementing classes to change. This provides a way to involve interfaces over a time without disrupting existing code. Prompt extinguish and reuses. Default methods enable interface to provide a common reusable functionality that implementing classes can leverage, promoting code reuse and reducing duplication. 3. Functional programming support. Default methods enable Java interface to support a functional programming concepts like higher order function, which has a privilege limited to abstractive class. Syntax and structure. Declaring default methods. To declare a default methods, we need to use a default keyword before the method signature. The method body is then provided just like a regular class method. Implementing default method. Classes that implement an interface with an default method do not have to provide the implementation for a default methods unless they want to override that behavior default behavior. Accessing a default method. Implementing classes can also have include default method on interface using name, similar to how they can overcome a static interface method. Overriding default method. If all class wants to provide its own implementation in this method, it can simple use a default method. Overriding default methods. When a class implements an interface with an default method, the class has an option to override the default method implementation. This is done by simple defining a method with the same signature in a implementing class. The implementing classes method will take a precedence over a interface develop default method. This allow classes to this allow class to customize the behavior of a default method to their specific needs, providing a flexibility and control. Benefits of default interface methods. Increased flexibility, reduced maintenance, and improved API evolution are benefits that come from default interface methods. Increased flexibility. Default methods allow interface to evolve and provide a new functionality without breaking existing implementation, giving developers more flexibility. Reduce maintenance. Default methods enable a common functionality to be centralized in a interface, reducing a code duplication and maintaining efforts for implementing classes. Improved API evolution. The default methods make it easier to add a new methods to interface without forcing all implementing classes to change, facilitating another smoother API evolution over time. Use cases and example. Extending existing interface, providing utility methods, functional programming support are case and example. Extending existing interfaces. Defaulting methods allow you to add a new functionality to existing interface without breaking existing implementation. This is useful for involving Java's core interface like collection or competitor. Providing utility method. Interfaces can now include a default method that provide a common, reusable utility functionality, reducing a duplication in implementing classes. Functionality program support. Default methods enable interface to support a programming concepts like higher order functions such as a new stream API introduced in a Java. Best practices and consideration. Prefer composition over inheritance. Avoid conflicting defaults. Document carefully and use judiciously are the best practices and consideration done in default interface of Java. Thank you all.